शन्नो मित्रशं वरुणः शन्नो भवद्वर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्भक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु भक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Now, let us repeat the Bhashya as a way of relocating ourselves. The Bhashya is like a GPS, so that our discussions will be within that. Okay. Yeah. So the bottom page, the last line of, if we are following this 269, the big number is 26 and the other number is 2. This much, from there we will repeat. Guhayam Vyoman. Yeah, loudly. Repeat loudly. Yeah. Guhayam Vyoman.
Guhayam Yoman
Itiva.
Itiva
Samanadhikaranyat.
Samanadhikaranyat
Avyakrita Akashameva Guha.
Vyaktam Akashameva Guha
Nigudhaha Sarve Padarthaha Trishu Kaleshu Karanatvat Sukshmataratvat Tasmin Antarnihitam Tad Brahma. This is the second explanation. The first one we already saw in detail. This happens to be the second explanation of the understanding of what this guha is. And I had already summarized this. And what does it say? It says that the second explanation does not also looks at the concept of Vyoman, space, as avyakrita, unmanifest. That which is unmanifest, that is what is akasha, space, and that space is nothing but that which is unmanifest. It will say that, and then and that itself is the buddhi. It does not bring in karya, karana, all these things, but that avyakrita it brings in as the buddhi is the manifest aspect of this unmanifested avyakrita, and then in that buddhi is Brahman, like this. The second explanation is there. See, there are these purva, these, as I told you, these two explanations that we saw yesterday come from a particular orientation. They got thrown off by the word parama, first thing. And then the second thing that is they are responding to in coming up with this interpretation is that there is in the Shastra a gradation from the sthula to sukshma. From the gross to the subtle, there is a gradation in all discussions. And we have such a verse in the Bhagavad Gita, which is lifted from the Kathopanishad. Indriyebhyah parahyarthaha अर्थेभ्यश्च परं मनः मनसस्तु परा बुद्धिः बुद्धेरात्मा महत्परः महतः परम् अव्यक्तम् अव्यक्तात् पुरुषः परः पुरुषात् न परं किञ्चित् सा काष्ठा सा परा गतिः. This is the verse from the Kathopanishad. This is, this is how they got this idea. So this is how did they get this idea? They got this because, see, first we start with the artha, the sense organs and the sense objects. Sense objects, they are, one would think they are gross and the sense organs are subtle. But here, the sense organs imagine the sense objects. So here the sense organs are gross and the potential sense objects, they are subtle. And then indriyebhya parahi arthaha. Artha means sense objects. And then indriyebhya parahi arthaha arthebhyascha param manah. So that in which these objects appear, like ghata, pata, etc., that is even more subtle, which is the manaha. Manasastu para buddhihi. The manaha is a vacillating aspect of what we call the antahkarana. So the nishchayatmika is what is buddhi. Nishchayatmika means that which is unwavering, it does not go here, go there, all these things. So nishchayatmika buddhihi. And so now the buddhi is much more subtle than the manaha. Why? Because the manaha is like a shallow kind of engagement. Shall we have ice cream? No, I think chocolate cake is better. And like this is the kind of a shallow thinking because it is just basically not capable of any deep engagement, this mana. And that is where all the vacillation takes place. Then then manasastu para buddhihi buddhehe atma mahan parah. Here atma means buddhehe atma mahan parah. Mahan here means this is that mahat tattva. The mahat tattva, like bhuhu, bhuvah, subah, then mahaha, that mahat tattva is subtler. And then mahataha param, greater than that or more subtler than that. Greater means more subtler, that which pervades. And that which is pervading, that is greater, is more subtle, because the subtle pervades the gross. This is the idea in this verse. So then, mahatah param avyaktam. Avyakta. See that same avyakta that we are discussing. Avyakrita, avyakta. Vyakrita, vyakta. Same thing. These are just synonyms. So then, so this avyakta is the para. Avyakta, and then avyaktat, then we are told purusha paraha. Purusha means Ishvara. Sarvan purayati iti. That Ishvara is subtler. Purusha pervades avyakta. Avyakta is pervaded, Maya is pervaded by Purusha. This we have to assimilate. Maya is pervaded by Purusha. Purusha pervades Maya because Purusha is more subtle. Just like space pervades everything because it is more subtle than anything else. Just like that. And so nothing pervades space, especially in our empirical everyday example. That's why space is used for Vedanta so much. That's why we are here stuck on what is this Akasha, Parame Vyoman. This is what it is. It is overused, in fact, in Upanishads, in all the Vedantic works. So then, Purushat na param kinchit, nothing is greater than the Purusha. And then here we have because the buck has to stop somewhere. Otherwise, it will be an infinite regression. Then greater than one Purusha is another Purusha. Then greater than that Purusha is Purusha number 3. And then greater than that Purusha is one more Purusha. Like this, we'll keep on going. It will be an infinite regress. So it stops at that consciousness and that Bhagavan, which is the cause, because the consciousness in the form of that Bhagavan, which is the cause of the universe. So then the Upanishad, which one, Kathopanishad, does one little bit of a gender bender. What does it say? It says, well, Purushat na param kinchit. There is nothing subtler, greater than the Purusha. Then it feminizes everything. Sa kashtha. Sa. What is this sa? But that's how it is. Sa kashtha. She is the way. She is the destiny. She is destination. She is the way. And then this is oft quoted. This is how they got this whole avyakta and purusha and all these things. This is the logic of the subtle pervading the gross in the Vedic cosmology is very very well entrenched, and it enjoys a very good reputation among the acharyas. That's where the acharya has these acharyas who talk about the second definition and the first definition of looking at the space as avyakta, because that avyakta alone has its adhishthana in Brahman. So then, therefore, Brahman is said to be avyakte nihitam. You see, got the idea now? Yeah, that is the connection. But Adi Shankara, as I mentioned yesterday, is not very, very happy with this. Not very happy with this meaning, because the second, if it had just stuck to this, he would have been fine. But then the word parama that coming in, and the word parama being taken to be something other than oneself. This is what he has a problem with. This is what he doesn't like. And even though he shows respect to the acharyas, he's not going to, he's going to differ from them in a very, very interesting way and in a very big way. But he differs from them without really showing that he is differing from them. And it's done in a very, very subtle way as well. So, because, see, we are talking about, we are talking about a sentence that's soon going to follow. Parame Vyoman. Then Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam. That not soon follow. That has just preceded this. What is this? Parame Vyoman Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam. Then comes Parame Vyoma. So therefore, in the Upanishad Vakya, this is a very important consideration to make. We can't just gloss over and look at only one thing, with a microscope, and then say, oh, this has its moorings in the Kathopanishad, or this is the subtle gross theory, or Parama always means Ishvara because that's how it is in the Upanishad. And we can't just miss the forest by examining one leaf. That is the idea. So Adi Shankara has that wingspan to soar above all of this, and yet to look and like an eagle. The eagle is seen as a what is that? The flight and the gliding of the eagle is seen as a metaphor for the path to moksha, the so-called path. Moksha is you yourself, but the so-called path to moksha is seen as the flight of the eagle. Why? Because the eagle, especially eagle means the traditional Indian eagle. What is that? Garuda. Garuda. And so that one has this wingspan, and it's got breadth of vision. It doesn't miss anything. It takes in the trees. It glides. It takes in the big view, and then it sees a mouse scurrying somewhere on the ground. What is that? Prey, lunch. And then it's able to swoop in and catch the prey with its talons and go feed its babies or whatever it needs to do. So that is the path, so-called path to moksha. It is written about in the Shastra that you have to have this, you have to have this gliding big wingspan that allows you to soar above samsara and to be able to look at samsara without participating in the samsara. Thanks to the wind of the Upanishad that's giving you the wind to glide, the Shastra Guru Mukhat gained from the teacher, that wing of the, you're gliding on the wings of you're gliding on the air of the Upanishad. And then at the same time, any small argument that is not okay, that is somewhat awry, you can just go identify that as well, just like the eagle does. That's why even in the Shanti Mantra, we say, we pray to Garuda and say, make my path to this, to the discovery of myself as free of obstacles as your flight is. Swasti nastarkshyo arishtanemihi. Arishtanemi. Arishtanemi is the one whose flight is unimpeded. Arishtanemi. Beautiful. And so this is Adi Shankara's wonder here, because he's able to do that. Maybe he chanted that mantra so many times that Garuda blessed him, and with the blessings of Garuda, he's able to not lose sight of the forest, for the trees, for whatever else is it. But at the same time, if you ask him, he will be able to describe each and every tree also. Very rare. And so here, he's not just going for these abstractions and these distractions. Because if you just look at set precedent, the precedent is whenever the word Parama comes, it is Ishvara. He says, why? He will argue that. He will say that's not always the case. And here we have to look at the context, because Parame Vyoman doesn't always mean somewhere Ishvara or Avyakrita or something like that, or Karana. It could also mean something else. And if you can quote, I can also quote and show you how it can have more than one meaning. And the meaning here has to be looked at contextually. It cannot be just glossed over. It has to be looked at in the context. So because you cannot gloss over yaha Veda. Veda means what? Janati. The one who knows. How does the one who know? Vritya Janati. Through a particular kind of a thought. All knowledge is in the form of a thought. All discoveries are in the form of thoughts. I mean, this is itself something to think about. All discoveries are in form of thoughts. All knowledge is in the form of thought. And what does this thought do? The thought is like thought means what? There is a slight change in the I. In the I, there is a slight change, because before it was just aham, 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 aham. Now it is what? Aham janami. I know. So the I, which was simply sitting I, now becomes the I that knows. Now it has a crown called the Pramata crown, the crown of the knower. It dawns on the status of the knower. And this is all happening so subtly and so very unobtrusively that one doesn't even notice it. One may just as well miss it. And in this process, what happens? That small mental modification that takes place when you have that aha moment, and not we are not necessarily talking about Brahma Jnanam, or the knowledge of Brahman. We are only talking about even anything, knowledge of something in the world. I know that mental modification that has taken place to turn you from an ignorant person of that particular object to a person who knows that object, that is called vritti. It's a thought. And what is that thought? It could be like, oh, this is how it works. Aha, this is how you do this. That aha, that is the vritti. The discovery. Then what happens to the vritti? What happened to the O and the aha? It's gone. Aha is swaha. Okay, this is what the vritti is. Aha is gone, but the knowledge remains. The knowledge remains because you can never unknow something. You can never unsee something, because this is how the pramana works. This is exactly how the pramana works. You cannot unsee something. You cannot unknow something. You know, Pujya Swamiji would always give this example. What is the meaning of the word Ushnisha? Ushnisha means what?
Disturbance.
Yeah, turban, because you have studied Sri Rudram. That is why you are able to say. But many people will say Ushnisha, Ushna means heat. Yeah, Ushnisha turban, Ushnishine, Namaha, Ushnishine, Namaha Giricharaya. So the one who is in the form of the tribal goat herd, shepherd, the one who goes, the one who is in that form, that is all Rudra's forms. Like this it is there. So now we know the meaning of the word Ushnisha. You can never unknow it. But what if I have dementia? If somebody says, then you still know the meaning. You cannot express it. That's all it is. You still know the meaning. But the expression has been corrupted. The mode of expression and the brain cells, etc., that are required that are activated in the course of this expression, they have become compromised, corrupted, and that's why you cannot express it. Same thing with Atma Jnanam. Once you know, you cannot unknow. So where is this happening? The knowledge happens in this antahkarana alone. So the antahkarana has to be buddhi, therefore it is guha. And then, Adi Shankara stops short of taking this parama as karana. Because then there is that, like I talked about it at length yesterday. This is just a summation. So then there is always this split between the parama and then what? Aparama. Then I am not parama, Ishvara is parama. And then for 2 minutes he gave me darshan in my head and messed with my head and went away. This is what the people will think. And so therefore this is what something that he does not accept. Instead, he takes two different tacks. The first tack that he takes is that he connects this discussion to the alternative meaning of Akash. What is the alternative meaning of Akasha? It is there in the Upasana portion of the Upanishad. In the Upasana portion of the Upanishad, it is there as Hardakasha Upasana. Hardam means Hridhi Bhavam, obtaining in the heart. Hridhi Bhavam, Hardam. So this is called Hardakasha Upasana, meditation centered upon the heart space. What kind of meditation? Sagunam Brahma. Ishvara. Meditate upon Ishvara in this heart space, in the space of the heart. And so that is basically, so the inside the heart, mind, etc. Heart means the heart of the matter, the core person. That's why it's called heart. Just like even in English, we say we have to go to the heart of the matter. That's exactly what it is. And so, in this heart, we are supposed to recognize Ishvara. That is, there is many kinds of Hardakasha. There is Hardakasha Upasana. There is Gayatri Upasana. One kind of a Gayatri meditation is there. And then there is also another Upasana. I forget the name of it. I'll find out. So I'll find out the name for it. But there's another kind of Angushta Matra Angushta Purusha Upasana. All these like this are there. So in the Kathopanishad again, we have a what's its name, mantra. And what is this mantra? Angushthamatrah purushah madhye atmani tishtati ishano bhuta bhavyasya na tato vijugupsate etad vaitat. This is the mantra. Angushthamatrah purushah. So one is told to visualize Angushta means thumb. Okay. Angushta is thumb. So one is told to visualize in a thumb like Purusha. Oh, meaning a small thumb-sized Purusha in the right chest cavity. No, no, no. Not that the Purusha is thumb-sized. No. So, Angushta Matra. Matra is not measurement here. Matra means Angushta Sadrisham. Angushta Sadrishaha Purushaha means that which is like the thumb. What is there about the thumb that is in common with the Purusha? Very, very interesting. What is there about this thumb that is the same as the Purusha, Ishvara? What do Ishvara and my thumb have in common? Like Ishvara, the thumb is asanga. It is not part of this body, mind, sense complex ahankara. It is not part of the manaha, buddhi, chittam, ahankara, body, etc. It is not part of that. Senses. It's not part of that at all. It has a different origin, yet it supports the function of the whole hand without really becoming any one of them. So therefore, Angushtamatra Purusha Madhye Atmani. Madhye Atmani here doesn't mean in the middle of the Atma. Atma here is the body. That's why we have to be very careful in the context. Madhye Atmani Tishtati. Ishanah Bhuta Bhavyasya Natato Vijugupsate. Natato Vijugupsate means the one who knows this Purusha as abiding in the heart cavity, so to speak. Then Ishanah, the one who is the Ishvara of the Bhuta, that which is in the past and the of time, past, present, and future. Na tataha, therefore the one who knows that, na vijugupsate, na kaschit gopaitum ichhati, the one has nothing to hide. Such a person is free of any kind of caprice and fraud, deception, etc. No such thing. Very transparent person. And so, like this, there is that Angushta Purusha Upasana, then Harda Kasha Upasana. Then usually, since the left chest cavity is already occupied, and then if you visualize Ishvara sitting there, then you'll start feeling like it's already crowded, and then you'll start having angina or think that you're having angina. So therefore, all the upasanas visualize the right chest cavity, not the left one, because here it's already one fellow is sitting there beating lupped up, lupped up. Let that continue. Okay, we need that to continue, because if that doesn't continue, who is the meditator? Dhyata kaha, so there is no meditator at all. And so therefore, the right chest cavity, this is called Harda Kasha, because that is empty. And somewhere I read that Lord Brahmaji kept it empty just so that one could do this meditation. This Gayatri Upasana, and then there is another, it is called Ahangraha Upasana. Generally, the upasanas are of two types. One is Sampatti Upasana, where you visualize or meditate on whatever it is, like Saligrame Vishnum Dhyayet, etc., etc. Instead of the Saligrama, look at Vishnu. All these things are there. Then there is this Ahamgraha Upasana. Ahamgraha Upasana means that you take yourself as part of the equation, and you include yourself in the meditation. And so this way, all these kinds of upayas, these kinds of things, contemplations, meditations are all there. And so this is the Akasha that Adi Shankara is clever enough to swoop in and look at some quotations. First, he's gliding over and refusing to see Parama as something other than the forest, where he's just gliding like a magnificent eagle. But then, when he wants some quotations, he suddenly becomes a predator, and he just swoops in and picks off these quotations, which are very, very beautiful, that we will be presently looking at. But first, a few other things. Now, this space, this heart space, or whatever you want to call it, that is what is called Bhashya Kasha. So that is what is compared to what is called Bhashya Kasha. And then Hardakasha. Bhakhyakasha means the space outside. Outside what? The person. Outside the person, the body, mind, sense complex. So the outside Akasha is just like the inside Akasha. That is how you can visualize. Because if you don't understand Akasha, if you don't understand the concept of space, how are you going to visualize that space in the right chest cavity? Forget bringing Bhagavan and making Bhagavan sit there. So how are you going to even visualize? If you say, oh, it's a very special Akasha and there is no comparison, then how are you going to visualize? It's just like the Akasha that surrounds you. It's the same Akasha, except it has an epithet that which you confront from the standpoint of the body mind complex. That which you confront is called Bahihi Akasha. Bahirakasha, and then this is the Antaha, this is Antaha Akasha. And so like this, this kind of a, as though distinction is made, just to be able to understand that this distinction is, just to be clear, this distinction is made only from the standpoint of the body mind complex, not from any other standpoint. Okay, so then so that is one thing to understand. Then the word parama is again hanging like a guest who has become a pest, means overstayed the visit. So what to do with this word parama? So Adi Shankara takes it as parama means free of raga and dvesha. That is why it is parama. Free of raga and dvesha. And why is it free of raga and dvesha? Because only in such a buddhi, or the buddhi is the seat of the heart is the seat of the buddhi. The heart space, this metaphorical heart space that we are talking about, is the seat of the buddhi. And so this only this buddhi alone, which buddhi? Adhikari buddhi. So, if you want to have space in the buddhi, the raga dveshas are cluttering the buddhi. Raga dveshas are fixations, addictions. And they need not be all in the form of objects. They can also be in the form of strange ideas, notions, all kinds of things. And so so that's why when the person studies the Upanishad, the Mahavakyartha should go and hit the heart. If it doesn't, then the problem is that that heart space, that buddhi, whatever you want to call it, is not clear. There is no, in fact, you can't call it heart space because there is no space there. And so nothing can go in. And that's why the person says, I have studied Keno Upanishad, kuch nahi hua, nothing happened. I have studied Kathopanishad, nothing happened. And so, what is the guarantee that something will happen now? And if this is the attitude, even now nothing will happen. But the thing is, that resistance, that area of blocks and fears, and the unconscious mind and the unresolved emotions, which we like to refer just by the simple compound raga and dvesha, raga dvesha. So that has to be taken care of. And when that is taken care of, parame vyomni nihitam guhayam yo veda. You bring in the adhikari as well. The Upanishad, according to Adi Shankara, is very, very cleverly bringing in the adhikari also. Adhikari means the qualified person who is going to enjoy this knowledge. Otherwise, this knowledge cannot be enjoyed. How can you enjoy this knowledge if there is all, you have several irons in the fire, so to speak? And so, how are you going to enjoy this knowledge? There is no room, there is no space, there is nothing. So, you can't enjoy this knowledge. And why can't you enjoy this knowledge? Because there are too many other pressing concerns, worries, anxieties, unfulfilled desires. As though that is not enough, there are also desires that belong to another category, unfulfillable desires. What are they? The balloon which your sibling snatched away and then it popped at the age of 2. One is still grieving that. And then what? Even at 92, if somebody gives you 100 balloons, it will still may not be the same because you want that balloon back. Unfulfillable desire. So like this, these are all frozen needs. In psychology, they are called frozen needs. And because they just they were just kind of frozen in time as a lack, like I didn't get this from the mother, I didn't get this from the father, I didn't get this is the kind of a thing. So this comprises the hardakasha, and that has to be cleaned out, and only in that hardakasha alone, which has undergone a thorough sweeping housekeeping and inner housekeeping. And that's what COVID has taught us now, because everything has to be disinfected. Whether we are talking of airplane seats, which everybody, as soon as they climb into the plane, we are all busy wiping the seats to sit down. Even to sit down, wiping the tray table, wiping the seat in the seat in front of us, wiping anything that you might touch. So like this that is what has to happen with him, and without that this knowledge will not shine. So parame vyomni is the space, the kind of space in which Brahman shines. Not that Brahman is not shining in a space that is filled with all kinds of clutter and bothersome emotions, but that shine is eclipsed, as it were, by the Rahu and Ketu of Raga and Dvesha. This is what he, very ingenious and wonderful meaning, awesome meaning he gives, and we'll be seeing that. But here, Parame means Parame Akashe, Parame Vyomni means Nirmale Vyomni. Nirmale, that which is devoid of mala. And so like this is the interpretation he gives. And so this hardakasha is that which is buddhistha. This is what the um, tikakara, I think, says later on. Buddhistha akashe, meaning what? Shuddha buddhau eva nihitam brahma. Why? Because the word Veda is there. Veda means no. It is a subject matter of knowing. Yaha Veda, the one who knows. That's why this Akasha is in the Buddhi. But where does the knowledge take place? In the Buddhi. Knowledge does not take place in the toes or in the nose. Knowledge takes place in the Buddhi. Even if you have hurt your toe, you stubbed, let's say you are walking somewhere and you stubbed your toe, and then you cried out, ow, 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 ayo, ayo, you cried out, I have stubbed my toe, it is hurting, it's hurting. Who is saying it is hurting? The toe never complains. And the pain signals are going to the brain. They are going to the buddhi. The buddhi says, oh no, it is hurting. And that's why if you go to the doctor and say, I stubbed my toe or I sprained my ankle, the ankle doesn't go to the doctor. The toe doesn't go to the doctor. Buddhi decides, I have to go to the doctor, this pain is too much to bear. And then the intervention is also made at the level of the buddhi. Some kind of a extra strength, the prescription strength Tylenol or ibuprofen is given that knocks the buddhi out. And after that ibuprofen, if you come and sit in Taittiriya class, you will just say, okay, it will just act as a soporific. It will be a nice lullaby, because nothing will be understood. So see, you even in the doctors who do pain management, they attack at the level of this buddhi only. Everything, all the sensations, whether they are pleasant, unpleasant, comfortable, uncomfortable, they all happen in the buddhi. The knowledge of everything is in the buddhi alone, nowhere else. That's the single place, the only place where knowledge takes place. And what kind of knowledge are we talking about? Both aparavidya and paravidya. Aparavidya, the knowledge of objects; paravidya, the knowledge of oneself as the subject. Brahman, Ishvara. That also has to take place in the buddhi alone. Where will you get a special buddhi? You can't get a special buddhi to just know Brahman. No, Brahman is very special, so I have to have a different buddhi. Where will you get that kind of a buddhi? You can't get. There's only one buddhi. And that itself is difficult to find out, if it is still working, etc. Very difficult to keep it clean and all these things. One buddhi alone is there, where the whole jagat is recognized. Jagataha upalabdhi sthana buddhi. That upalabdhi sthana of the jagat is called the buddhi. And then, interestingly enough, that same buddhi, that same place means not a place where it obtains, a place where it's recognized. So the same place where the ghata, pata, matha means what? There's some words like ghata, of course, is pot, matha, an ashram, and then pata is cloth. So if you want to say it in English, you can say hat, cat, mat, rat. Same place where the hat, cat, mat, rat are recognized, same place Brahman is also recognized. Same place, because this is a faculty of knowing. And whether it's the knowledge is that of finite objects or of the subject that is or of the nature of the subject that is cognizing the finite objects, the self-cognizant, self-evident, whether it is that or whether it is the objects, the buddhi does not care. As Chidabhasa, as it's borrowing its luminance from from that which is that consciousness alone. It's in fact reflecting that consciousness, and it is equipped to do so. It is a subtle organ, and it is that's why you can see the brain, but the buddhi is not just the brain. The brain is one expression of the buddhi. Buddhi is much more subtle than that. That's why if you do an autopsy, you can't locate the buddhi because it is very, very subtle. And so in this buddhi, both the kinds of knowledges are taking place. This is not an ordinary thing. This is a very, very big thing. So the knowledge of the subjects taking place, knowledge of the objects are also taking place. How is this possible? Because there's only one faculty. An illumining faculty is what is needed. And the Buddhi's job is just to illumine. Whatever is there, it will illumine. Just like, the sun. Buddhi has got a sun-like radiance. And what does the sun do? The sun simply shines. If there's a group of people studying Bhagavad Gita, it will shine on them. They're studying Bhagavad Gita under one tree. Under another tree, these people are up to no good. What are they doing? They are plotting how to rob a bank. They're plotting. The sun shines there also. The sun doesn't say, oh, I'm not going to, I'm going to go away from these people and I'm not going to shine on those people. It doesn't say that. So just like that, the buddhi simply shines the light on what there is. And so the recognition of the objects and the recognition of the subject happens in the same faculty, which is called buddhi. And for the recognition of objects, also there has to be some clarity of purpose and all these things. Even to read a newspaper, Times of India, you have to have some buddhi available. If you're distracted, or if you're expecting somebody to come, or you are expected to do something, and you won't be able to focus on whatever it is that you're reading. You won't be able to focus at all. And so therefore it is said that the buddhi has to be cleansed of whatever it has accrued. And the meditation, these Hardha Kasha meditations, is for cleansing that and making this buddhi available to understand itself as Brahman. So this is why he takes the word Parama to mean a nod to the Adhikari. Because the one where you recognize Brahman in the buddhi, but what kind of buddhi? Adhikari buddhi. Parame vyomni buddhau. And so there is only nirmalatvam. It's just it's the Parama means nirmalatvam. Nirmalatvam means that it is it is free of other encumbrances in the form of preoccupations, chronic doubts, chronic sorrow, etc. It is free of being heavy and an encumbered buddhi. And so this is why he differs from that. He differs from the other two interpretations, because he does not look at he does not look at this what is that, the parama, as something to do with a karya, and then he bypasses this whole thing called what is that, sukshma, what is that, the avyakrita. The avyakrita argument, he talks about it. He wants you to know that he knows it, and he does talk about it. And then he says, Samanadhikaranyat avyakrita akashameva guha. The guha is not the buddhi, the guha is avyakrita akasha, according to the second explanation. So avyakrita akasha is itself guha. Tatrapi nigudhaha. In this are hidden. What is that? In this are hidden all kinds of things. Vyakta, avyakta, all these things, nigudaha, sarve padarthaha, trishu kaleshu, in all the time periods. So, in this are hidden. That's why it is called guha. This is the second theory. He just touches upon and then explains it, and then, and then very nicely he's going to dismiss it. So avyakrita why is it avyakrita? It is avyakrita. It's called avyakrita. He supplies, Adi Shankara supplies and kind of buffers the second theory, which is that which is looking at avyakrita, and then he's parama as avyakrita, and he says there are two reasons. One is because it is the karana, sarvasya karanatvat avyakritam, and then sukshma chattaratvatscha, it is sukshmatara. It's not sukshmatama, sukshmatamam brahma. Sukshmatara means little more subtle. And so, and trishu kaleshu karanatvat सूक्ष्मतरत्वाच्च तस्मिन् अंतर्निहितं तद ब्रह्म सूक्ष्मतमं ब्रह्म यथोक्तम तद यथोक्तम सत्यम ज्ञानम अनंतम इति यथोक्तम ब्रह्म. Just this Brahman, just exactly as it was taught, exactly as it was taught as Satyam Jnanam Anantam, whose Swarupa is, then that itself is Brahman. Desha Kala Vastu Paricheda Shunyam. This is what it is. It is something to be recognized. That is where Bhashyakara is leading us. He's leading us away from this second definition, and he says all that is okay, but we need not bother with avyakrita. The buddhi becomes important only because that is where the jagataha upalabdhi sthanam is there. So the place where the jagat is recognized is also the place where the adhishthana, the source of the jagat, is also recognized. Jagataha upalabdhisthanam, jagataha adhishthanasya upalabdhisthanam eva. It's the same place. And so this is what he says. And then he just doesn't want this avyakrita to be brought into this argument. And because he just says this parama is something that is swachha, ragadveshadi, because it is ragadveshat swachha. It is cleaned of all the raga, the dvesha, etc. Since the antahkarana shuddhi apeksha means the expectation that there will be some kind of an inner cleansing. That's why we have all these qualifications which are listed in the Tattva Bodha, Shama, Dama, Uparati, all these things are there. And once you have that, then only Brahma Jnanam takes place. It has been pointed out. So a buddhi that is not encumbered by all kinds of things, this is what is important. So now you can repeat again. Yeah, top of page 70. Hardamevatu.
Ardhamevatu
Paramam Vyoma.
Paramam Vyoma
Iti Nyayam.
Iti Nyayam
Vijnanangatvena.
Vijnanangatvena
Yomnah
Vyomnaha
Vivakshitatvat
Vivakshitatvat
Yo vai sah
Yo Vaisaha
Bahirdha Purushat
Bahirdha Purushat
Akashah
Akashaha
Yo vai sah
Yo Vaisaha
Antah Purusha Akashah
Antah Purusha Akashaha
Yo ayam
Yo Ayam
Antarhridaya Akashah
Antarhridaya Akashaha
Iti Shrutyantarat Prasiddham
Iti Shrutyantarat Prasiddham
Hardasya
Hardasya
Yomnah
Vyomnaha
Paramatvam
Paramatvam
Tasmin Harde Vyomni
Tasmin Harde Vyomni
Ya Buddhihi Guha
Ya Buddhihi Guha
Tasyam Nihitam Brahma
Tasyam Nihitam Brahma
Tadvritya
Tadvritya
Vivaktataya
Viviktataya
Viviktataya Upalabhyate Iti
Viviktataya Upalabhyate iti
Nahi
Nahi
Anyatha
Anyatha
Vishishta
Vishishta
Deshakala
Deshakala
Bandhaha Asti Brahmanaha
Sambandha Asti Brahmanaha
Sarvagatatvat
Sarvagatatvat
Nirvisheshatvat cha.
Nirvisheshatvacha.
A big argument. Nice, very nice. And so let us look at that. Hardamevatu paramam vyoma iti nyayam. Iti nyayam means this is tenable. It is only right that we look at this harda as this this paramam vyoma as harda. Hardam is that which is Hridi Bhavam, that which we have been talking about. That is it is only correct to do so. Why? Vijnana Angatvena. Vijnana here is meditation. Anga is the limb. So one of the limbs of the meditation. Oh, so the meditation also started to have hands and legs. No, no, no. But when you do this meditation, you have to do this visualization, iti, this kind of a limb, anga, vyomnaha vivakshitatvat. Vivaksha means vaktum ichha, the desire to say. So it is desired to say what? That this space that they talk about when the Upanishad discusses the meditation, etc., then so it is a kind of a Akasha Shabda is a Upalakshana for pointing out a place or the type of buddhi for doing this kind of meditation. So so this what is that? Parame Vyoma is not the meditation itself. It's not the dhyana we are talking about. It is pointing to the adhikarana of that place where the mantra is to be visualized, or some Ishta Devata is to be visualized. Adhikarana means the locus. So it's the locus there, and that Upalabdhi Sthanam, that locus is the place not where Bhagavan sits, even though we say that. But it's the place where Bhagavan is recognized. Because if we look at it as the place where Bhagavan sits, we are in terrible trouble. Because then that means Bhagavan is, there is a, Adheya and Ashraya and all these things, these comes locator and located, duality comes. And so therefore, that is not the point. It is only merely a place where it is recognized. And so if the buddhi is confused, then it is not parame vyomni buddha. It is not this thing. If it's a confused buddhi, then it is not it is not recognizing Brahman. But then, whether your buddhi is confused or clear, Brahman is still in the buddhi. Brahman is available in the buddhi. See, we can't say that, oh, only if you have a clear mind, Brahman only will be there. Otherwise, unclear mind, what is there? No Brahman is there. Only space, Akasha is there. That's why the person is spaced out. You cannot say that. You know, in the confused buddhi, in the crowded buddhi, in the obsessive compulsive buddhi, in the sad buddhi, mad buddhi, Brahman is still there. Brahman is still shining equally in all the buddhis. But then what? It is not recognized as that. That's what it is. So to recognize, so it's not that whether the shine of Brahman is going to come, whether Brahman is going to come and sit or not. No, Brahman is already there. But the Mahavakya Upadesha has to hit the home run. If it cannot hit the home run, then then you don't recognize it. That means what? There is some gadbad, very nice Hindi word, onomatopoeic. You don't even have to you don't even have to explain what gadbad is. So we need a gadbad rahita buddhi. A buddhi that is gadbad means some kind of a chaos, chaotic priorities all piled up on one on top of another like a unwashed laundry of several weeks. And like this, if the buddhi is, then Brahman is there, but it is not recognized. It's not that Brahman is not there in such a buddhi. In such a buddhi, the Brahman is there. But despite Brahman being there, despite, let's say, even Guru being there, despite Mahavakya Upadesha has taken place, still one doesn't recognize it. Like the student in the Kenopanishad, says what? Upanishadam bho bruhi. Oh, sir, teach me the Upanishad. When? After it has been taught. After it has been taught. So this is why, and this is an excellent example. So just that student who at the end of the Kenopanishad book says Upanishadam bho bruhi. And the teacher is so kind. The teacher doesn't say, what were you doing? Were you sleeping? And what were you doing? Why are you coming? The teacher could have said that very well, but the teacher doesn't say that. The teacher simply says, Ukta te Upanishad, Ukta has already been taught. So, but to make you feel better, I'll give you some sadhana. Oh, okay, what should I do? Do some Hardha Kasha meditation. That is what he needs to do, that student there. So do some kind of a meditation. So this is why the buddhi has to be converted from a crowded place to something, a spacious place where Brahman can be recognized. That's the idea. And what do you mean by crowded place? This is also very interesting, because this crowded place means it's got all nama rupas in it, correct? All what is that? What in the beginning of the quest we call as anatma preoccupations. What are anatma preoccupations? Nothing to do with atma. I want this, I want that, then after that I want this, like an endless series of all kinds of wants. The person is just a wanting machine. And I want this, I want this, I want that, I want this, after that I want this, after that I want that, all these things. So the buddhi that is preoccupied with anatma has difficulty recognizing itself as atma. Why? Because that which is anatma is not outside of atma. But that which is Atma is nothing to do with Anatma. This is always in Vedanta, remember, it's a one-way street, and Vedanta gets away with it. Because there is zero, codependency in Vedanta. There is no, you scratch the back and I will scratch your back later. All this dysfunctionality is not there. So that which transcends everything, but that which is not away from everything. Sarvendriya gunabhasam, sarvendriya vivarjitam. This is the Bhagavad Gita. That which is, which is the object of all the indriyas that we enjoy. All the sense, that which is the object of all the sense organs, that which at the same time is untouched by any sense organs. Very beautiful. This is what has to be understood. So the clutter that we talk about is not outside of Brahman. That the sorrow, if it's there, that is Brahman. Argumentativeness, if it is there in the buddhi, that is Brahman. I am always right, you are wrong. If that is there in the buddhi, that is also Brahman. And then if fear is there, that is Brahman. If I am the best, east or west, that thought is there, that is also Brahman. But it cannot be recognized as such because the person has taken the anatma to be atma, taken that for himself, herself, mistaken that for himself, mistaken that for herself. And so therefore that mistake denies the knowledge. And why does the mistake take place? The mistake happens because one has, atma ajnanam, and that atma ajnanam is layered with all kinds of ragadveshas and complicated by the presence of the ragadveshas. That is why the mistake happens. One takes oneself to be what one is not because one doesn't know what one is. And this is why the buddhi needs a little marjanam, sweeping. And so this is that is why it is called Parame Vyoman, where the Satyam Jnanam Anantam has to shine. And that is the Mahavakya, Yo Veda Nihitam Guhaya. That is why it is emphasized in the Upanishad. That the Veda what? Mahavakya Artha Veda. Artham Veda. The one who understands the meaning of the Mahavakya Satyam Jnanam Anantam. And you see, this Brahman is not paroksha, remote. As I said, it is just in the form of all the Namarupas. Every Namarupa is Brahman. Brahman is not a single Namarupa. This has to be recognized. And that Brahma, so the first thing that this is what has to be recognized. Otherwise, what happens is that, we can think of Brahman as one more object. We can make that mistake of seeing Brahman as yet one more object. And then what? Then you say, I don't have time to study Brahma Vidya because Brahman is one more object. I'm already busy. I'm pursuing too many things. And so, so therefore, if you take Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam, the word Veda, as something remote, as something outside of yourself that you have to know, meaning there is an object called Brahman which has the guna, which has the attributes of Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, then this is just, we may as well stop the class right now. There is no point in going forward. That is why we spend so much time. That is why Adi Shankara spent so much time refuting this Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam as attributes. They are not attributes. They are Lakshana. They are Lakshana Vakyas. And then this Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. And what is the beauty of it is that the Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam obtaining in the buddhi in the form of all finite objects. Anything that the buddhi thinks of, pot, Satyam Jnanam Anantam, Brahma, is not outside of Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Hat, cat, anything. In law, Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Outlaw, Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Everything. So everything is Satyam Jnanam Anantam. But it cannot be recognized as such. Because why? It is embroiled in the name and the form. Asti bhati priyam. And then these three, adyatrayam brahma rupam. So this asti, that which exists, satyam, bhati, jnanam, that which shines as yes, I know. I know this. This is what I have this understanding. I have discovered this. So I am satyam and asti. I know bhati, and then priyam is anand. That which is ananda is priyam. So asti bhati priyam, these are the swarupa of Brahman. These words are describing the swarupa of Brahman. These words belong to Brahman in that sense. Adyatrayam Brahma Rupam, these three. And then there are two more. What else? Nama and Rupa. They belong to the Jagat. This is what is the division here. Asti bhati priyam, Satchidananda is Brahman, and then Satchidananda plus Nama Rupa Jagat. So the Jagat is got what? What is intrinsic to the Jagat? Nama and Rupa. What is intrinsic to the Jagat is finitude. That is what is intrinsic to the Jagat. But it shines, it dazzles as though it is infinite, because it borrows everything from Brahman. Every single thing. It borrows its sustenance, it borrows its the knowledge, it borrows the limitlessness from Brahman alone. And so, therefore, it is difficult to separate. That's why Brahman is non-separate from that which is obtaining in the buddhi. What obtains is Atma Chaitanya alone. But that Atma Chaitanya is what? Is in the form of various Nama Rupas. Various Nama Rupas. And that's why we spend so much time on the word Jnanam. Jnanam means what? The Jnana Shabda being there. It's the source of consciousness, which is what? It cannot be anything other than you. Naturally non-separate from Atma, from you. This is why it is, this is why it is said that this is how you have to understand this Brahman, because it is what? Parame Vyomni. In this buddhi alone, in this, in certain kinds of, just like we said, certain kinds of meditations, a place is imagined, which is the seat of the ahankara, which is the buddhi. And then that is where you are told to visualize this, that, and the other. And he quotes those quotations. So, Hardam eva tu, going back to the Bhashya. Hardam eva tu. Tu means whereas. Whereas means I have just made short shrift of the first two theories put forth by other acharyas in one single, nipata. Things that don't decline are called nipata. And in one single expression, tu. Tu means whereas, means I disagree with them completely. Ardham eva, then eva kara is there. Ardham eva. Eva means this is eva kara means emphasis which removes this avyakrita and all these other meanings. Ardham only, not avyakrita, not unmanifest, not space, nothing. Only that which is hardam, that is which obtains in the heart, is called akasha. And that alone is applicable here. Imagine the courage you need to write like this, especially when confronted by other acharyas' talks and writings. Very beautifully done. So there is the two things, two indeclinables he uses, tu and eva. Finished. That whole gamut of their arguments is just been, like with a master stroke. They have been eliminated completely. Completely. He has ridden roughshod over them. Because the word parame, as I said, causes a lot of trouble for everybody. And so therefore, hardamevatu, the evakara and the tukara, both of them, talk about differentiating how his argument is separate from what the other people have argued. So the avyakritartha, that unmanifested nature, is removed. And then here the hrit, he talks about how the hrit is the seat of the ahankara, as though seat of the ahankara, where the purusha is recognized sitting there, or anything you are asked to do, make a little space and then put this one, put this ishtadevata, put that ishtadevata, so many things. This, whenever the Upanishads or the first portion of the Veda refers to Harda, Kasha or Hridaya, it just means what? The seat of the Ahankara, the seat of the Pramatra. Pramatra Sthanam is called Hridaya. Pramatra means knower, the core person, the knower, the content of the knower. This is what is called Harda Kasha. And then what else did he say? Hardamevatu Akasha. So this is what the thing is. Because, if you say space in the buddhi and all, then it gets scary, Who wants space in the buddhi? Nobody. Even the person who complains, I'm spaced out. That's so because they don't want the space in the buddhi. Already one is disconnected and alienated from everything. So that's why it is very elegant to say space in the heart. Yes, we want that. We want to accommodate that. We want to accommodate everything. And so like this, Akashavat Buddhi. So the Buddhi is like the Akasha. And so what kind of Akasha? Hardakasha, the space obtaining in the heart, which is the seat of the person, the core of the person. And what should it have? Nairmalya, means it should be free of raga, dvesha, papa, punya, all these, lamentation. And then, so when you say Atma, see, this is another thing, a small caveat. Atma is usually compared to Akasha, isn't it? Atma is like space. And so Atma is all pervasive. We always compare Atma to Akasha. But here, when the Buddhi is compared to Akasha, this is not the understanding. Buddhi is very spacious, commodious, and all pervasive. If we take that, then we will be missing things. So, we should not go away thinking that Akashavat Sarvagata Buddhi. Buddhi is all pervasive. No. That is just a guna. It's not the all pervasiveness that's comparing. So Akashavat means the Antakarana is free of pollution. That is where the connection between Akasha and Antakarana are made. Just like space is free of pollution, even though now they say space trash and all these things. Then there is, sometimes they surprise themselves. So Perseverance is the name of the rover, one big machine that went to Mars, and it even went with a helicopter there. And then it keeps taking selfies and keeps its job is to collect soil, take a few selfies, and then take some other pictures of the Earth and send it back. Mars, and send it back to Earth. Then recently it took, one picture, and everybody was alarmed. They said, "What is this? How did, how did this what looked like a ton of plastic? How did Mars have already so much plastic?" Then they realized it is where that rover had landed, and then when it landed, it burnt off a few of its whatever its outside things and all this plastic and metal and everything, which is still sitting there. And stupid or maybe very clever Perseverance rover took the photo of that and sent it. So like this, we are not talking. We are talking about the Akasha as free of pollution. Even though we say space trash and space pollution, space is not polluted. We are projecting all that atmospheric pollution onto space. Space is never polluted. So similarly, the buddhi is free of all kinds of pollution here. That kind of buddhi alone will see within quotes, see the truth of the Mahavakya, assimilate the truth of the Mahavakya, and it is Akashavat Nirmala Buddhi. It's not Sarvagata Buddhi. It is not all pervasive or everywhere going Buddhi. No, that's not why the Buddhi is compared to space. The Buddhi is compared to space primarily because it is free of all, it can be free of all pollution. That is the idea. We'll stop here and we'll pick it up again next week. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaga Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.